It's Monday, July 8th. Quick one-up video for you wonderful ladies and gentlemen. Based on traffic conditions in New York, it seems like people are back. I'll be very curious to see how things go with Powell tomorrow. I'm expecting him to do more of the same, saying he is seeing some progress on inflation, but they're not ready to cut just yet. The probability for the September rate cut is at about 77%, so I'll be looking at that right as Powell is speaking and as his comments come out to see how that reacts. July to me is off the table. It's about a 95% probability that they're going to stay the same. They have not signaled that they're going to cut in this coming meeting. I do think that the July meeting could set up September if they are going to cut, but we'll have to wait and see. I'll give that analysis right as it comes out as well. As far as the market, we're seeing some kind of contra indicators here. It's like loose change that gives me a little bit of hesitation. We're not seeing sentiment overly bullish, so there is still some room for capitulation to the upside, that kind of blow off top. But the VIX isn't confirming the new highs with new lows either, and we are seeing things like Bitcoin stumble a little bit, and some of the AI plays have been relatively good and just not making new highs, but we are seeing some of the other mega cap tech names pick up the slack. We know the Apples, the Teslas, the Microsofts, the Googles, etc. have been pretty strong. As far as VIX goes, I think pops over the trend line here could see a bit of a run. If you get over 1332, we probably could make a run up to 1443 and maybe even a 1488. But again, this is really very low volatility. And until we can get up over and stay up over the 200 MA, which is currently 1443, I'm not impressed. As far as futures go, we have yet another new high in an overnight session. So it means we probably will still see higher prices in a regular trading hour session. We could often see a liquidation break before that resolves. If we do have anything that gets below 56.37.5, we could see 56.26, 56.05, and likely a retest of the 55.88 breakout zone. If that fails, I think the bulls are in for a bigger liquidation break and could repair some rich closes like 55.38.75, for example. In the Qs, kind of a similar setup here. I think pullbacks to 20,638.5 are still okay. If that fails, there's potential to repair some rich closes there from 20,535.75, the breakout at 20,496, and then there are zones of support in between there, between the 20,435 quarter and 20,371, and then 2371 down to 2271 quarter. If that were to fail and there was a larger liquidation break, there is a rich close to repair at 2099. As far as SPY goes, we got two time frame confluences of fib extensions at 550 level. If we do keep going up to the channel high, depending on how long it takes, it could be between 562.49 and the 2.618 extension at 566.87. I think if we were to have a lower high or somehow just lose low of day at 553.19, we could see a liquidation break back to the 620 high at 550. Remember, 550 was a kind of big pass, don't pass line, and I think that could be checked back to. If that were to fail, we could see 547.94, the 10 MA, the 20 MA at 544.99, and then a retest of the Fed day high at 544, and then we'd see. But that 550 level on pullbacks could be a right or right out buy, but it is really the must hold. As far as Qs go, new highs, I told you that we were likely so close to 500 that we'd see it. If we do keep going, 502.44 is the 2.618 on a shorter time frame, and then 508.02 is on a bit of a longer time frame. But my guess is there could be some 500 sellers. I think if you're already long, 495.50 is a good raise stop. If there is some kind of a liquidation break, we could check back to the 619 breakout at 486.86 and the 10 MA at 484.79 and rising. If that fails, of course, the 20 MA is down at 480.28. But I think those checkbacks are probably viable, at least right or right out, for an intraday day trade and potentially for a swing. SMH still looking okay, but not leading the Qs like we like to see. I think as long as it can hold 268.93 on dips, it's okay. There's likely some resistance back up around the 279.84 to 280 level, which would be channel high and our reference high that we saw back on 620. As far as NVIDIA goes, we had a little bit of a look above and fail of our 626 range high. Remember, we've been trading in this 10-point range between 128.12 and 118.04, and we've had a couple of attempts above. They haven't really stuck. Today we got a mini little close above there. I think as long as we're above low of day of 127.04, and I would even say just the 10MA at 124.74, it's still okay. Below there, I think there's risk to range low down to the 118s. So I would like to see it up and over and holding 128.12. If so, we could even retest the all-time highs up at the 140s. And that would be very strong for the market. As far as Apple goes, new highs, we're over the 2.618 at 224.09. The next big spot is the 2.618 at 233.29. And if we were to do the full Monty to channel high, that would be 235.14. I think a low of day, particularly if we have a lower high tomorrow at 223.25, is a good raise stop. We could pull back to 220.20 and maybe even the 10MA at 216.79. Microsoft still pretty strong, bit of a dubstep today. If you want to have a raise stop with low of day at 464.46, be my guest. 473.61 is the 2x range, and if we did the full Monty to channel high, it'd be around 480 and change, depending on how long it took to get there. Bitcoin has been a little bit of a problem after the Mt. Gox lease and I think subsequent liquidation break, which probably triggered stops in algorithmic trading. As long as it can hold 56,910, I think the risk is probably back up to 60,120. If that can't resist, we could continue on up, maybe even to the 20MA, wherever that is at the time, currently 63,012 and falling. If we can't hold 56,910, we could bounce around in this range, maybe even down to 53,125 and the 200MA at 51,310. We do see some nice bottoming tail hammers with some higher lows. I think if you get up over and stay up over 58,525, that could be a press. Generally speaking, I still like using up opens to trim gains, particularly with the Qs rapidly approaching our 500 target. If there's some kind of a gap up into that zone, I would use it to book profits. You could use the opening 5 or 15 minute low as a stop and or a short trigger, probably with a stop up over the 500 level. I think the market is going to hinge on what Powell has to say tomorrow. If he's overly hawkish, I'll let you know. If he's status quo and sort of hints that there's going to be rate cuts coming, but they're seeing substantial progress in inflation and thinks that the risks are starting to balance out more, which is more of what we heard in the last Fed release, the market might like it. I think the market is sort of looking for an excuse for things to be strong into earnings, but I do wonder if we do get good earnings, could the market, if it's already up into them, is it going to be pop and flops, or is it going to just be flops if you can't go higher on good news? We could get some kind of a blow-off move. Usually the markets are strong into the first couple of weeks of July, and then we sort of see that malaise into August, September, October. Just because that's happened the last couple of years doesn't mean it has to happen again, but I do think as we get closer to the election, things could heat up a bit. I do think that there seems to be a bit more of an aura of certainty about a Trump victory, and I think traders like that because they want to see the Trump tax cuts extended. That's it.